Hi, my name is Evan Brooks, and I'm in the Boy Scouts of America working on Brian Brooks' Eagle Project. Today is August 30th, and we're here with Bob Brauchler in Orange, California. So, Mr. Brauchler, when and where were you born?
I was born in New York City in 1944.
Can you tell us a little bit about your parents, what they did, who
My
they were?
parents. My dad was a professional musician for a while, and then ended up when us kids came along, he decided he would go into the textile. So he made it women's knitted sweaters and knitted suits and stuff. He designed a lot of sweaters and things. He did that right up until the time he retired. My mom worked in a bank until us kids came along, and then she just became a home mom, taking good care of us.
So you had how many siblings?
Well, I have a brother and two sisters.
Did any of them join the military?
My brother was Army. He was, but he ended up staying stateside. He's more of a computer wizard and books and stuff. So they needed him in Washington D.C. So he was working at the Pentagon.
Wow.
Yeah.
So were you in the army, or what branch were you
I
in?
was Navy. I was Navy and Marines. I joined the Navy, and then they put me with the Marines as a corpsman, medic.
So why did you decide on Navy and then Marines? Did you like them over the other branches, or just?
Well, Vietnam was raging, and I was getting ready to be drafted in the Army, and I didn't want to go into the Army, and I definitely didn't want to go to Vietnam. It was a dangerous place to be. A lot of the guys in my high school class were going over there and getting killed, so I didn't want to join them. So I decided I'd join the Navy. When I got my Army draft notice, I quick went down to the Navy recruiter and told him I'd rather be in Navy. So he set me up so that I could join up in March and then actually go on active duty in not until September. So it kind of gave me the summer off. Yeah, kind of like a kiddie cruise, they called it. So we got a chance to stay at home and kind of relax for the summer. So that's what happened. But unfortunately, the recruiter talked me into becoming a corpsman. I wanted to become a signalman, work semaphore, flags, and Morse code, because that's what I had training in back when I was a Sea Scout. You know, I was in Boy Scouts, and then I was in the Sea Scouts back, and then they called it the American Nautical Alliance. So I ran, semaphore and stuff like that. So I thought that would be good, but he talked me into it becoming a Navy corpsman because, well, I found out later because the corpsmen were being killed a lot over in Vietnam, and so they needed some replacements. So he convinced me that it would be a great thing to do. You can be working with nurses, working in hospitals, and so I fell for it. So I said, okay, make me a corpsman. So after basic training, I went into Corps School, Navy Corpsman School in the Great Lakes. And that's when I found out that Navy corpsmen go with the Marines. The Marines don't have their own medics, so they use the Navy medics, the corpsmen. So it was too late then. I'd already signed up. So when I went to corpsman school, I did very well. I finished top of the class. I was valedictorian. That's the first time in my life I had finished well at anything. I was, elementary school, junior high, high school, just barely did enough to get by. But once I went to Corps School, I realized that healthcare was where I should be. But now I had to worry about going to Vietnam with the Marines. So I went to a specialty school in operating room technician. I thought that would be a good way to not go to Vietnam. So you could see I was doing everything I could not to go. It didn't work out, so became an OR tech. I finished top of the class in there too. So later that summer, I got orders to Vietnam, and needless to say, I was pretty scared. But I ended up with the 3rd Marine Division over in Vietnam.
So what years were you in
That was 1967, and I had gotten married 2 weeks before I left for Vietnam. So I left my wife and one adopted son behind and went off to Vietnam in October of 1967. So it was not a good time to be in Vietnam. I don't think any time was a good time to be in Vietnam, but especially 1968 was when they had the Tet Offensive. That was a huge counterattack by the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese Army, and they killed a lot of our guys. And I was in the middle of that battle, in the Battle of Hue, doing evacuation and taking care of the wounded. So very rough time. The Battle of Hue. Hue used to be the capital of Vietnam before they split between the North and South. But it was some tough times.
So, were you ever, you were stationed in Vietnam for a while. Were
Yeah.
you anywhere else?
Well, that was the only thing with the Navy Marines. Marines, I did all my time. Well, other than training, I did Camp Lejeune. I trained me how to do field medical training, and you had to learn a lot of the Marine Corps ways of surviving and stuff like that. And then after my year in Vietnam, with the 3rd Marine, I was with the 3rd Medical Battalion and the 3rd Marine Division. I served with air evacuations and ground evacuations of the wounded. And when I got back from Vietnam, I went back to the Navy duties, finished up another year, and then got out in 1969. And then I decided to stay in medical, so I went to nursing school and became a registered nurse. And then I joined the Air Force. I went to the Air Force for another 8 years as an Air Force nurse. I was a captain. So I got out in 1983, and I've been a registered nurse running operating rooms and surgery centers. I just retired about 5 years ago. So now I go back to Vietnam every year with a Christian medical mission group.
So you've been in 3 branches?
3, Navy,
Wow.
Marines, and Air Force. I avoided the Army. See, I was successful after all. I didn't have to go with the Army. So I don't know whether that was good or bad, but anyway, I got the other branches anyway.
So, you went to boot camp. How did you feel about, how did boot camp, did they have a
Boot
goal?
camp?
Yeah.
Well, Navy boot camp was pretty easy. I have a background in music also. Took after my dad, being a professional musician. I learned how to play the drums when I was 10 years old, so I was in percussion. So all through high school and different schools, I played in all kinds of bands, marching bands, dance bands, rock and roll bands. Rock and roll was just starting in the 50s. So when I got into Navy boot camp, they decided, hey, we need you to play drums in our marching band. So our boot camp was not quite as hard as the regular boot camp because we were special. We were performers. So it was a little bit long. It was like 12 weeks of training. We had to learn all the nautical type things, but we were also performing at all the graduations. So it really wasn't too bad. And then like I said, from there I went on to hospital corpsman school, OR technician school, and then when I got with the Marines, you had to go to Camp Lejeune, and the training there was a little bit different. They didn't care whether you played drums or whatever. They just they taught you basically how to survive and take care of the wounded and stuff. That was pretty intense.
So, was it hard adjusting to becoming a soldier, or was it hard to adjust in the military life?
Actually, not really. I've always I felt like I think I'm kind of flexible. You know that you only have a certain amount of time in basic training, all the training, anything you can really handle anything. If you just kind of, and I have a very good sense of humor, so I kind of always found humor in things. So if you got a drill sergeant barking at you, yelling at you, calling you all kinds of names, and just think that this guy is funny, So I would try. Later on, I would make jokes about it, or I mimic him, impersonate his voice. So, it made life. Yeah, I've always done that all through. Even in Vietnam, during the toughest times, when you got so many people being killed around you and wounded and stuff, you got to keep your faith. You got to keep your sense of humor through the whole thing. And that's how I've always been. Still to this day, that's the way I get through anything tough like that.
So, when you first got to boot camp or when you first started like going out, how did you keep in contact with you back home?
Well, write letters and stuff. I was pretty good at writing letters. I have to say that, my new wife and my family were not as good writing back, so, I kind of took that a little bit tough. I figured since I took the time to write every night or at least every other day, I would expect return, and it didn't work out. So, again, you got to kind of go with the flow on that, too.
So, did you make any like friendships while you were in the military?
Yeah, I did. I always made lots of friends, but it's kind of funny. When I got out of the military and with being in 3 branches of service and doing 13 full years, you'd think I would have some friends. Once I got out of the military, I don't think I ever ran into anybody I knew in the military in all these years.
So yeah, like
Not one. I don't think I ever. I think I heard from one or two, through Facebook, but I've never had face to face. And I've gone to the Vietnam War, the wall in Washington, and then they have this like a traveling wall that comes to Wayne Park, a couple of places, and that's kind of emotional for me. I run into names of guys on the wall that I knew that died, and so that was kind of disheartening. But you would think I would run into somebody alive, so I kept running into names of guys that were dead that I thought were alive. So I don't know, I just never did. So I've always been a busy guy. Now going back to Vietnam, I still every once in a while I hear from people, hey, I'm a Vietnam vet, I'd like to go back with your mission and stuff, but it never happens. People never seem to go and, associate with me or anything like that. It's not their fault or my fault. It's just the way it is.
So, did you see any combat while you were there?
Yeah, I did. As a corpsman, you're considered non-combatant. We're issued a 45 sidearm and M16, and with more in a defensive structure. When you go on patrol with the Marines, you carry your Unit 1, you carry your medical bag. You're issued a Unit 1, which is a medical bag for my first aid kit type of thing. But I was taught right away to get rid of it, take all your medical supplies, stuff them into your big pockets on your fatigues, so you don't stand out. If you're on patrol, the military, the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese would target people of importance in a patrol. For instance, a radio operator, they want to target him, the snipers, the platoon leader, and the corpsman. These are the most important people. So you knock out a corpsman, there's no one to patch up guys, so they're not going to get patched up and come back to fight the North Vietnamese. So they would target us. So you want to you hide your sidearm, you hide your medical stuff and anything. And I was carrying M16. I had a Thompson submachine gun for a while, so I looked more like the regular GIs. In fact, I got a picture here if you want to see it. That's what I looked like.
Wow.
Didn't look like a corpsman, did I? Did I look like I was going to patch you up and put a Band-Aid on you?
You look like everyone else.
Yeah.
So, so being a corpsman, I'm sure you saw a lot of blood.
Yeah, the blood and guts, and I think that was kind of, and I would with the Marine grunts and so forth, did it patrols and stuff initially, but then I ended up in the medical battalion because I had OR tech experience and stuff. And I tell you, there are times when I liked being out on patrol better, or because at least you had some accomplishment, patching people up, moving on. You got to go out. When you get in the med battalion, especially during Tet, and when we had so many casualties, that it was kind of depressing. I mean, all we saw was our losses. You're seeing guys dying, blood, guts, guys not making it, yelling, screaming, and it just can really, it can get to you. It's like, okay, you can cheer yourself up a little, say, oh, I saved this guy's leg. oh, we kept this guy alive. Yeah, for how long? 1 day, 2 days? By the time he's evacuated further down, you find out later on he died. Or you go to the wall when you get back to the States, and you look on the wall, and that same guy that you patched up, he's dead. He's on the wall. And so it's very depressing, but again, my sense of humor and my faith in God kept me through it. You know,
So
tough time.
how'd you feel about the war?
Well, the war is, I was kind of, very patriotic. I thought I was going over there to do some good things, put a halt on communists. I thought that the people over there wanted us. It was, very unpopular war, as you probably know. I mean, the American people, the Congress, there was a lot of people that just anti-war stuff, and very sad time. So we weren't really like that too much military. After the war, it was really, really ugly. I basically got rid of all my uniforms and tried to look like everybody else. I started going to college, and I had to fight my way to get into classes. So the school I was going to in New York was very liberal, very anti-war, and they would try to keep you from going to classes. They would have bomb scares. They would hold hands and try to keep you from going into classes. So I get into fist fights and stuff. It was horrible. And you call baby killer and stuff. And there's very little of thanking you for your service like they do nowadays. Now it's so much better. I think it's great. But then it was really poor. But so the war, to me, I thought I was doing a good thing. But the good thing about being over there, I really developed a heart for the people. I mean, I saw the people, and they, most of them were farmers. They had nothing to do with the war. And they were just, a lot of the GIs didn't like them, didn't trust them because they thought they could be Viet Cong, and they were killing the guys and killing our troops and stuff. But I never felt that way. I just kind of really felt bad for them. Then when Saigon fell in '75, I really felt bad. All this, we were over there 15 years, occupying there, and in the end, all of our guys, so many of our guys are dead or wounded, so many of their people dead or wounded, and they ended up worse off at the end of the war than we went. So what was it all for? It was sad. So that's why I go back now. I go back every year to do something more positive. I go back and we go into the villages, we treat the poor, and been doing that 15 years. Our group has been doing the Good Samaritan, just at our shirt. And we just got back 2 weeks ago. So Good Samaritan Medical Dental Ministry, and every year we have there's about 100 of us go over, and we treat different villages and stuff. And now we're trying to build schoolhouses. We're trying to build churches, and so I feel much better now that I can do something positive. The war didn't do it.
So you weren't a corpsman to start out with. So
No.
what'd you do before?
Back when I was in my scholastic achievements were pretty poor all through school, and at the time I thought, well, I'd like to be a marine biologist. I like to scuba dive. I used to scuba dive a lot, and so that's what I thought I was going to do. But my grades were just poor. I just had more of a social life than anything. I worked as a assistant manager of a pet shop at a department store, and I played music. I always played in bands all the time. So that kept me going. So, but I thought I'd go to college and get into biology, but did so poorly. But after Vietnam, that changed my life. The military changed my life, and I always recommend military or medicine to any of the kids when they ask me they want to find something to do. I said, go into healthcare, especially nursing. Nursing is just such a absolute versatile thing to get into. You can go into any area. In the military, some of the kids, I think that would be a good thing for them to learn things in the military. It changed everything for me. So like I said, my first scholastic achievement was being valedictorian of the corpsman class, and then OR Tech, nursing school. I was the first male in this female nursing school, and finished valedictorian of that too. Then I went on and got my baccalaureate in pre-med because I was going to try to get into medical school. It was hard to get in. And so then I went in the nurse corps, and I did very well in that, and I ended up getting a master's in public health from the University of Texas. So I've gotten a lot of achievements, and all of it because getting into the Navy and that recruiter talking me into becoming a corpsman, that changed everything.
So that's why you're a nurse then?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and do you have any stories from the war or anything?
Well, it could be a little bit ghastly. we we had a lot of amputations. Okay, there's a lot of arms and legs being blown off by mines and different types of grenades and whatever. And for the first few years of the war, you'd have all these body parts, right? And we were burying them in Vietnam. Okay, now Vietnam are basically all those people over there are Buddhists. So they didn't like the idea of our body parts, of the Americans, being buried in the ground, and then in the hereafter, they got these body parts floating around looking for their bodies and mixing with their spirits and their bodies and ancestors, so they forbid us from burying the body parts. So now what are we going to do with these things? We can't incinerate them because you need too high a temperature to incinerate, and you don't want to send them back to the States. So we were asked to drop them into the South China Sea. Every time we air evac any of our wounded or different things out in helicopters out to the hospital ships, the USS Repose and Sanctuary. So we would push the body parts, we put them in body bags with rocks, and then push them out the back of the choppers into the South China Sea, right? So it would go down and eventually be shark meal, right? So we were assigned to, in the back of the chopper has a loading door on the C-46s. When they lowered it down, we would push the body bags out. Well, I didn't want to get too close to the door, so I got on my back and pushed with my feet and pushed it up to the door, and the body bag went out, and then it wrapped around my foot and pulled me out the door. So now I'm holding on. I got a body bag pulling me out. I'm going to end up the South China Sea down the bottom with body parts, right? I'm trying to hold on, and it's pulling me out, and my Marine friends are laughing at me. They think it's hysterical, and I'm turning white, right? So finally one of them gets a knife and cuts the strap on the body bag and went down. But that was scary time. That was an interesting time. So.
Is there anything else, like about the war? Do you remember anything else?
Anything about the war? Well, there was, I think it was one of the sad things in the Battle of Hue. The Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese invaded that city and took it over. That's when we went up to try to evacuate our wounded out, and it was quite a battle. We battled for 30 days to try to get the NVA and the Viet Cong out of there. But what was sad is we had a lot of the local Vietnamese people worked at our base, at the 3rd Marine Division down in Phu Bai, which is about 8 miles south of the capital city of Hue. And just because they were sided with the Americans, they basically massacred them. There was something like 4,000 civilians just murdered and thrown into big, massive graves. And that was probably one of the most shocking times when we uncovered these things, and it was horrible. That was a bad time.
So, what was it like adjusting to the culture?
What was it like adjusting to the culture?
Yeah.
Well, I think most of the GIs did not. They kind of subjected their own culture. I mean, most of my fellow Marines and corpsmen and stuff, they didn't really we didn't honor their culture like we should have. For instance, some of the stupid machine gunners from the choppers would shoot the water buffalo. They thought that was funny. Water buffalo expensive, and they really honored the water buffalo, or they're sacred over there. I mean, they pull the plows, or so I mean, they thought that would be funny, killing a water buffalo. Also, they killed some of the people. And just sad. And then some of the names, we would call them, Missy Two or Mama San or Baby San. Very disrespectful. I mean, we thought it was funny. We had our own vernacular, and we didn't understand their culture, so we would do things to make fun of it or whatever. Uh, and when I say we, I'm not saying all of us, but many, many. So I look back, and now that I go there every year, and I know the people, and I know the culture, and I've learned some of the language, and I look back and I say, well, we didn't have a clue. We didn't have a clue. I just wish the military had taught us more about the culture of these people and taught us to honor that. And but it was hard. I think a lot of the Marines, especially the Marines and the Army guys, because so many of their fellow guys are being blown away and stuff by Viet Cong, NVA, they didn't have a strong feel. They almost could see them as just strictly enemy. Even the locals who were supposedly on our side, they didn't trust them. So I didn't see a lot of people learning the culture or honoring the culture. But I was probably just as bad as that. I don't kill anybody or anything like that. But instead of learning it, I'd do my humor type things to get by with it.
So, total, what's the total years that you spent in the military?
Total 13.
So I'm sure that you kind of learned how to adjust to military life. What did you do while you were like not on base?
When I wasn't on base, you mean not over in Vietnam, back in the States?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times I would have a band. I would get into a local band. We'd play country western music or old rock and roll, so that was good. Learned how to play golf. For me, I'm born and raised in New York City, so I'm a city guy. So it was an eye-opening experience to go now. All of a sudden, now I'm out of New York City and I'm in places like Columbus, Mississippi. When I went from New York to Columbus, Mississippi, it was like going back 500 years in time. It's like these people, they're kind of backward, and everything's slow. So, but like I said, I'm flexible. I learned how to spit and chew tobacco. I bought a red pickup truck with a gun rack on the back window. Got a shotgun. Learned how to shoot dove. Learned how to eat hush puppies and catfish. I kind of blended in with that culture. So I've always been that way. So that was cool. So for 3 years in Columbus, Mississippi was fun. But then after a while, then I moved to Texas. Texas, you learned it. I've got a cowboy hat, cowboy boots. Now I'm a local cowboy. So you just kind of go with it. And I think that's how you survive when you enjoy the different assignments. Any place, I always feel that no matter where they put you, it's only for a certain amount of time, and if you just go with the flow, be flexible, learn the culture, learn what's going on there, you can really enjoy it. My family, I've got I said I got 3 kids, and we've always moved every 2-3 years, changed assignments. And my kids learned how to make friends and move on, and they had to change schools, so it became very much tougher and easier to get along with anybody. They didn't get set in their ways like some people in small towns. You take them out of that small town and they can't cope. My kids are always able to move on, and yeah.
So, just a few more questions. While you were on base or in Vietnam, what did you do when you weren't on duty?
In Vietnam?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had a band again called the Pooh by Four, and the USO gave us some instruments, and so we would entertain it right around there. It was a little tough, with bombs going off and stuff. I had got some holes in my drums one time. We took some shrapnel coming in from rocket rounds, one of the shows that we were putting on. So we do that, and of course, I'd read, took a lot of photographs. I got me a 35 millimeter camera and took a bunch of pictures and stuff like that. That's kind of the stuff I did. Not a lot to do over there, but I mean, I felt very blessed that I had a musical background. So, yeah, it was kind of neat. You know, our commanding officer used us. You know, when we evacuated wounded out to the hospital ships, a lot of times they would send us out as a little band, a 4x4, out there, and we would entertain ship's company on closed circuit TVs. And this was, you know, very proud. This is my band. You know, the commanding officer would send us out there. You know, of course we had to drop body parts too on the way out, so we had a little extra duties, take care of the wounded, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah, so that's the kind of stuff I would do.
Um, Being in 3 branches of the military, you had to have a favorite.
Favorite? I liked the Navy enlisted, and you know, serving, helping out with the Marine Corps. You know, the Marine Corps kind of. I feel always very proud because, you know, now every Wednesday night we have a ceremony here in Orange. We have a flag ceremony every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. If you ever get a chance, come on out there. A lot of us vets go there, a lot of Marines, and we have some World War II vets, and it's very proud. So I have a very proud feeling of serving Navy and Marines. Air Force, you know, I don't have as much pride, but being with the Marines and being, and when you're over in Vietnam, they called you Doc. They respected you. You were taking good care of them. They were very fortunate. They felt very fortunate to have us. Of course, back in the States, you know, you're just a squid. You're a Navy guy. You know, so you know they didn't like to, you know, admit that they're part of the Navy, like to think that they're a different branch, but you know, we were all in it together. But yeah, I have a lot of pride serving with the Marines and doing my time at the Navy. So yeah, Air Force, I didn't like being an officer that much. It was a different situation. Enlisted, when you made rank and you did different things, it was based on your achievements. When you're an officer, it's more based on whether you're liked or not liked. Very little on achievements. You don't take tests and stuff. So here I was, a nurse, and most of my rating on whether you went up in rank was whether a female nurse that's your boss likes you or doesn't like you. And so I didn't particularly like that much. I liked enlisted, where you know you have achievements. How many? It was ranked on what kind of medals you had, your testing scores, and the different rank things, and you know, it was a whole different thing. So yeah, I liked the Navy Marines.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I can't think of anything, but nothing wrong with the military. I'm very happy to have served, and I feel, especially now, the way they're treating the veterans now. I love and we have a vow that we make on Wednesday nights. We said it'll never happen again. We're not going to disrespect any military guys like they did to us in Vietnam after we came back, when they spit at us and booed us when we got off the planes. Nowadays, any active duty guys, we take them out to dinner. Anybody active duty guys come out to our flag ceremony. As soon as the ceremony's over, we take them all out to dinner. We thank them for their service. That's what's different.
And what would you say to young people who are watching this that might want to go into the military or something like that?
I say it's an excellent thing to do, and I think the military can be such a blessing. There's so much to offer, and too many guys go in the military and they count the days, but there's so much to offer. You take advantage of it. They offer so many schools. And the GI Bill, use the GI Bill. I mean, I bought a couple of houses under the GI Bill. I went to 6 years of schooling on Uncle Sam. We have all kinds of medical help through that. And now I'm a disabled vet, and I get benefits from the military still, and I get a lot of medical help. So yeah, it's a great thing to have.
When you got your career from?
That's it. Yeah, got my career, exactly.
So thank you.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.